This is The Sports Life.
Rebound, Keaton Wagler. 20 seconds left. Here we go. We're headed for Indianapolis. Keaton Wagler dribbling it out. The coaching staff is hugging. The Illini, for the first time in 21 years, are going to the promised land of Indianapolis for the Final Four. How do you like that?
Brian Barnhart, the voice of the Fighting Illini, addressing his listeners as for the first time since 2005. Illinois is going to go to the Final Four, and that's a big deal. We'll team in here along with Dalton Shetler and welcome into the Sports Life as we have an interesting show. The last time Illinois and Michigan both made the Final Four was 1989, and it was not business as usual by any stretch of the imagination. So we're going to take a moment to take a look at what this whole thing was like for Illinois, for Michigan, and for the Big Ten. And so it's kind of fun to revisit the story behind the story.
Most certainly is. And honestly, that's all this show is going to be here this week. It's going to be a really special edition. We've got a great lineup of Mark Coomes, Mark Rudner, Bruce Madej, and Kendall Gill all joining us. So a lot of stories behind the stories, to your point, Will.
And it's amazing. It's been a while, but their memories are vivid.
That's right.
It's like it just happened yesterday. So anyway, so what do we got in terms of Sounds of the Week?
And, of course, we talk about Illinois there. Why don't we switch over to the Michigan side? Of course, the Wolverines punched their ticket to the Final Four as well there in Indianapolis. And here's what head coach Dusty May had to say as Michigan moves on.
Dusty, when they were cutting down the nets, I noticed you were kind of by the basket, supported by yourself, watching them. I know you've reached this stage before, but what's kind of going through your mind as you see those guys climbing the ladder?
Well, I know how much of a sacrifice that our families have made for us to chase our dreams and do what we love. They're playing a child's game. I'm coaching a child's game. And so when you look in one spot are all these people that have poured into them, their old coaches, their whoever the case, that have supported them and poured into them and made countless, their parents have made countless sacrifices for them to have this opportunity. It's just rewarding to see these moments when everyone's together. And so, yeah, that's it. It's not that I've been here before. It's just like, man, this is really cool seeing all these people that have helped us get to where we are that don't get a chance to celebrate in the locker rooms like we do, to have the bus trips and the plane rides and all the experiences we share together. They don't have an opportunity to do that. So when they do have a chance to share this experience, and it's just really cool to see.
His resume, Dalton, Dusty Mays, after a couple years isn't too bad. He's won a Big Ten tournament. He's won a regular season title by 4 games this year, which was amazing. And now he's in the Final Four and probably the favorite team. Well, when we come back with more of the Sports Life, we're going to revisit 1989 in just a moment.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Dad. Did you get a new haircut or something? A new shirt? You're looking good.
What happened?
A little fender bender?
How little?
A few days in the shop little, but thanks to Mom and our agent, we've already submitted a claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Sounds like simple human sense.
I'm fine, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna ask.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
Every kid deserves a chance to feel safe, to have their own bed, to be loved and cared for. That's why I love my foster parents. They make me feel like part of the family.
Raise hope and foster dreams for one of 13,000 Michigan children in foster care. Visit michigan.gov/hope for a home or call 855-MICH-KIDS. That's 855-MICH-KIDS. Sponsored by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and the Michigan Association of Broadcasters.
Do you hear that? That's the sound of uncertainty lurking under your hood. You know the feeling. I know I do. That sudden sinking sensation when you see a check engine light or your car unexpectedly breaks down and you're faced with sky-high repair bills. It's time to shield against unexpected repairs with CarShield. CarShield is America's most trusted auto protection company and has an A rating with the Better Business Bureau. Don't let the fear of a breakdown keep you up at night. Trust the Shield, CarShield, and say goodbye to terrifying repair bills and hello to peace of mind. Your plan also comes with 24/7 roadside assistance, courtesy towing, rental car options, and so much more. Don't wait till it's too late. Call CarShield now before a breakdown. Protect your wallet. Protect your car with CarShield. Get our best protection ever. Call now. You'll thank me later. 800-965-1292. 800-965-1292. That's 800-965-1292.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Roxanne Watson is on a mission.
Hello, how are you doing today?
She wants more people to register as organ, eye, and tissue donors.
Are you an organ donor?
Yes, I am.
Yay. My goal is to sign up the most people in the United States.
What drives her? Roxanne's own life was saved through the gift of a heart transplant, made possible by an organ donor.
I decided that day that I was going to devote myself to the cause of organ donation and signing people up and honoring my donor by doing that.
Now she's back to health, and she's a powerful force helping to save lives every day through her work. Imagine what you can make possible by leaving behind the gift of life.
8 people can be helped with the major organs, and up to 50 people can be helped with a little bit of everything. And when you think about it that way, that you could help that many people, it's amazing. It really is.
Learn more and sign up as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Go to organdonor.gov. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. We'll team in here along with Dalton Shetler. And as we talked about in the opening, we're going to kind of break down the excitement surrounding the fact that Michigan and Illinois wound up in 1989 in the same Final Four. And so we're going to break down Illinois first in this one. And if you want to know the type of team they had, in the 88-89 season, the University of Illinois Flying Illini, as they were called, really opened up an era like Illinois people had never seen for sure. They were kind of like the Fab Five before the Fab Five, and they really redefined what a transition game was in college basketball. And at times would even treat the fans to a good old-fashioned 360-degree dunk. That season, Illinois opened up, winning its first 17 and was ranked number 1 in the nation. But then soon-to-be All-American Kendall Gill broke his foot, and Illinois would lose 3 of its next 4 and lose the Big Ten title to Indiana by a single game. Yet in the process did receive a number 1 seed in the NCAA men's basketball tournament and would work its way into the Final Four we have mentioned. Its first appearance in 37 seasons, and would face Michigan, a team that Illinois had handily beaten twice during the regular season. Now, Illinois was led by head coach Lou Henson, who would go on to become the Illini's all-time winningest coach. And Henson also is a member of the College Basketball Hall of Fame. Now, a key part of that staff was assistant coach Mark Coomes, and Mark now joins us. Well, Mark, as that NCAA tournament progressed, what was your feeling when you saw that when you got to Seattle, when you got to the Final Four, that up next was Michigan in that media circus because of the Frieder Fisher thing?
Well, the most interesting thing to me was after we beat them by 16, the last game of the year, I said, I think they've given up. I think the team quit. I felt that way. And I felt like we had momentum. Kendall was back. We beat Indiana on Nick's last second shot. Then we had Iowa at home. And then going to Michigan, we thought would really be a tough game. We won by 16 points, beat them twice. But then when the transition came about and the coach went to Arizona State, Bill, and they brought in Steve, all of a sudden, when I saw where they were placed, and they beat Xavier and South Alabama pretty good, but then they beat North Carolina. And North Carolina was really good. And then they crushed Virginia. So something happened that all of a sudden the guys said, we're going to start playing, and we have a new coach, and we're going to finish the year strong. And it was really amazing, and it's interesting. A couple of years ago, I saw Glenn Rice down at Fort Myers, and I said, Glenn, I was assistant coach at Illinois, and you guys beat us really. It was a tough game. but you guys had a great season ending. And he said, Coach, he said, you were a better team than we were, but when we changed coaches, we caught fire. And he said, that was a great thing for a basketball team. I said, congratulations. You guys did a great job. So that was Glenn's opinion, and obviously Illinois and Michigan have a chance to be in the Final Four again. Good for them. Good for the Big Ten. And people don't remember, but I do, how tough the Big Ten was back then. Iowa, Michigan, Purdue, Michigan State had a good team. Northwestern even had a good team. Wisconsin had players. They beat us by 20 that year up in Madison. So Michigan and Illinois had a great game, and Glenn Rice caught fire. I still think he's the leading point getter in the NCAA tournament. I believe that's still a record. So what can you say, Will?
Well, not much more than you have said. The one thing I always thought about, Mark, did you ever think what might have happened not only in that game against Michigan, but the season, had Illinois stayed healthy the whole year?
Well, after Kendall went down after Georgia Tech, we were number 1 in the country, 16-0. And then we had 3 out of 4 tough road games at Minnesota, at Purdue, and at Iowa. And all of them were close, and we got beat in them. And we came back and beat Indiana for the first time that year. So I think we would have had a really good chance to win all 3 of those games if Kendall hadn't got hurt. But that is just part of the game, as we both know. I think that Duke would have had a lot better season this year if Caleb Foster hadn't got hurt. I think they would have had a better ending. They really missed him. So that is just part of the game, and things happen, and teams ebb and flow during the course of the year. And Michigan at that time really was flowing. I mean, Glenn Rice was unbelievable in the NCAA tournament. He carried that team. And you had all kinds of pros in that team. Loy Vaught, Glenn Rice, Ramil Robinson. It was just Sean Higgins came off the bench. So, I mean, Michigan was strong, very strong. People talk about the Fab Five. Well, guess what? I'd like to see the Fab Five play these guys, because Michigan in '89 was really, really good.
Do you ever take a moment and think back on the events in that game and relive that one through your head?
Not very often. And I tell you, I empathize with fans, because a lot of my friends do all the time. And that was an opportunity to win a national championship that year, because we felt like we had the best team. And the opposing players, I mean, Glenn felt like we had a better team than they did. But the whole thing was, coaches go immediately from one game to the next fast, and fans can never forget the bad things that happened to their team, and also the good things. But really, the bad things, at the end of a game like that, and losing that game like that, thinking that you had the best team, fans really don't get over that stuff. And guys bring it up to me all the time, and I said, well, it was a tough way to lose, but it is what it is. And when we went to Minnesota that year, both Kenny Battle and Lowell Hamilton got hurt. And Lowell wasn't the same player against Michigan as he was during the course of the year, because they both had sprained ankles. And Lowell's sprained ankle was very bad. And Battle's wasn't quite so bad, but he was our bright star that game. He had a hell of a game that game against Michigan, but Glenn Rice did too. So it was a knockdown, drag-out fight between 2 really, really good teams.
So, Mark, as a final question, obviously it's tough to lose with 2 seconds to go on a putback against Michigan in the semis. But as you look back at the season and the trip to Seattle and the Final Four, do you take away like a really good memory or something that makes you feel good about the whole thing?
I have a great memory that year. It was a fun year. We had what I call a preliminary to the Fab Five. And by that I mean, the flying Illini that year, the way we highlighted the basketball season, as exciting as we were, the amount of athleticism we had on the floor, all of our guys could dunk, and we got a lot of dunks. Sometimes our best offense was our offensive rebound stuff, and we had that on many occasions between Nick and Battle, Kendall and Lowell. Even Bardo could dunk some. Larry Smith. I mean, we had an exciting team, quick and fast. We didn't shoot many threes that year, but if you look back, there were a lot of times we scored 120 plus points. At LSU, we had 127 points. And Dale Brown told Coach Henson after the game, they were friends, and he said, "I appreciate you not running the score up on us, Lou." We put the second team in with 5 minutes to go. So, it was really a great season, and it's one that I'll never forget.
Well, Mark, I sure appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Will.
And also worth noting, Mark Coomes is also Hall of Famer, as in 2016 he was inducted into the Illinois Basketball Coaches Association Hall of Fame. Now, we've talked about Kendall Gill. He was a 6'5", 195 junior, and he was extremely athletic and a guard. Yet, due to a broken foot suffered in a double overtime win against Georgia Tech, Gill would miss 7 games, but he would be back in time for the tournament. So now joining us to talk about this whole event is Kendall Gill. So Kendall, as a team gets through the region and gets into the Final Four to play in a Final Four with Michigan, what was the feeling of getting into the Final Four, knowing that there was going to be so much hype because both you and Michigan was in this thing?
Yeah, well, the feeling was great. I mean, we thought that we could possibly get there. The way that our season had gone, I had just come back from a broken foot, and before I broke my foot, we were number 1 in the country, and then things sort of got delayed a little bit because one of the pieces to the engine was not there. So when I came back, I thought that we were, in my opinion, I thought we were the best team in the country. And we had a hard road to get to the Final Four. We had to beat a 27-win McNeese State team, a 30-win Butler team. Then we had to face Louisville, who had the number 1 pick in the draft, Purvis Ellison and LaBradford Smith and Felton Spencer, 2 other first-round picks. Then we go to Syracuse, and we beat Syracuse to get to the Final Four. And they had a former overall number 1 pick in Derek Coleman and the number 3 pick in Billy Owens and Sherman Douglas and all those guys. So they had a multitude of first-round draft picks as well. So we went the hard way to get there. Even though we were the number 1 seed, it was still very difficult to get there. And then Michigan had a difficult journey as well. But getting there, really, honestly, it was great for the conference, the Big Ten, because we grew up seeing the Big East being the better conference, the ACC being the better conference, and with 2 teams from the Big Ten in the Final Four, we thought it was great.
So, as a guy on a ball club that handled Michigan twice in the regular season, when you knew you were going to play Michigan, what was the mindset then, Kendall?
I thought we were going to beat them again, and thought that we would beat them handily. I mean, seeing as what we did with them in the regular season, but they were a little bit different ball club than we faced. Glenn Rice was just on fire throughout that whole tournament. I think they came out there really with a point to prove. And also too, it took me 25 years to look at that game because I did not watch it afterwards. I didn't watch it until after, I retired from the NBA. That's how painful it was for me because I thought that, we should have been the national champion. But, you had to take your L like a man. And, I congratulated Michigan when they did beat us, but I still felt that, we were the best team in the country. And that's why it took me so long. And like I mentioned to you earlier, I still really haven't gotten over it because, when you're so close to a national championship and, one rebound doesn't go your way, that being the rebound that escaped Nick Anderson, and Sean Higgins grabbed it and put it back, that stays with you for a while. You're just one rebound shy of perhaps winning a national championship.
Well, Kendall, you can hear and feel the pain there as you kind of relive that. My natural follow-up to that is, after 25 years, why did you rewatch it? Maybe just let that one go.
I thought that I was over it, but I wasn't, and after I watched the game, I looked at how we played, and that was one of the worst games we played all season. I mean, I felt like we did a lot of things to beat ourselves. And after I watched the game, I called up Steve Bardo, who's, of course, my backcourt mate with the Flying Illini. And I told him, I said, man, we gave this game away. And then Steve said, man, listen, don't worry about it. Get over it. That's what Steve said to me, but, I still, to this day, I haven't.
It is a final thought, Kendall, for all the people that never have experienced anything quite like that. When you get to the promised land, so to speak, in college basketball, what does that do for you? You have the agony like we saw somebody's going to have in the Duke loss to Connecticut, the ecstasy where somebody makes the big shot. How does that affect one's life?
Well, it affects it in probably your subconscious mind, because you were that close to being the king on the top of the hill, the champion. And instead of, and Ramil Robinson, when we were in the pros, he used to always tell me my ring is gold, and my Final Four ring is silver. So it's like someone has a one up on you, especially when you've gotten that far. And I feel for Caden Boozer, the other day when he made the mistake of not holding on to the basketball and throwing it away so UConn could get the last second shot, which they did, and they knocked it down. That kid is going to think about that for the rest of his life. And I hope that he gets an opportunity to hopefully go back to the Final Four and win a national championship, because that's the only way that he's not going to really think about that anymore. It's tough because once you become a champion, you're immortal. And when you're a part of a special team like that, you gotta stay tight forever. Which the Flying Illini, we've stayed tight forever. We still talk to each other at least once a month, and it's just a special when you get that far with the team.
Well, Kendall, as always, I appreciate it.
All right, guys, I appreciate you.
By the way, Gill would go on to earn All Big Ten and All-American status, and he would be a first-round draft pick and play 15 seasons in the NBA. Well, when we come back with more of our show, we're going to take a look at the Michigan side of this. But first, this break.
So, got one for you, boss.
Oh, yeah?
What's black, white, and dented all over?
I give up.
The company truck. I know, but thanks to our agent, we've already submitted an insurance claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto Owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Lucky for you, that's simple human sense.
Ask your independent agent if Auto Owners makes sense for you.
Here's a real-life story that affects 50% of all of us out there. It's called divorce. If you've gotten divorced and now you're struggling to pay your bills and your credit card debts are completely out of control, you need to call this special debt relief hotline right now. We help people with all kinds of money problems caused by different life challenges, a divorce, a job loss, even heavy medical bills. All these life events can sometimes financially stress you out and cause you to get out of control. We help people get their lives back by showing them ways to consolidate and reduce their debt, in some cases for a fraction of what they owe. If your credit card balances are more than $10,000, call us and learn how to reduce your credit card bills and monthly payments now. Here's our number.
Paid for by Debt.com. Call now, 800-810-1584, 800-810-1584, 800-810-1584. That's 800-810-1584.
That ought to do it. Totally energy efficient.
Oh no, not again. This time, we're getting help.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the battle of energy efficiency improvements. In this corner, Mr. I can save money and do it on my own. And in this corner, Miss Let's Get It Done Right with some help. Fight!
Or you could just go to avoidenergydrama.com. From sealing your home to helpful loan options, you'll find all the tips and tools you need to stop wasting energy and stay comfortable. Avoidenergydrama.com. Brought to you by Michigan Saves.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Unlike other health concerns, mental illness is not always easy to see. Depression won't show up on an eye chart, and you can't measure it on your bathroom scale. Sorting out a mental health concern is not something to attempt on your own. You won't find a bipolar disorder by looking at a thermometer. Like many other health conditions, help for mental illness takes professional diagnosis and treatment. Anxiety won't just go away under a stick-on bandage. So the sooner you seek treatment, the better. If you or a loved one has a mental health concern, don't go it alone. Find out what to do. For 24-hour free and confidential information and treatment referral, call 1-800-662-HELP. Learn more at samhsa.gov/support. That's samhsa.gov/support.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Tiemann here along with Dalton Shetler. And don't forget, auto owners insurance, simple human sense. Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you. Well, we're talking about the last time Illinois and Michigan wound up in the same Final Four. And heading into the season we're talking about, 1988-89, the University of Michigan was picked third preseason in the Big Ten that year. And the Wolverines were led by All-American forward Glenn Rice, who would score an NCAA record 949 points that season. So, as the postseason was approaching, the Wolverines were coming off a season-ending loss at home by 16 to Illinois. And then head coach Bill Frieder announced that he was leaving Ann Arbor to become the new head coach at Arizona State, which then led athletic director and head football coach Bo Schembechler to decide somebody else needed to coach the Michigan team in the postseason, and that somebody else was assistant coach Steve Fisher. Joining us now is the longest-serving sports information director in the history of the University of Michigan's athletic department, Bruce Madej. All total, Bruce served the department for 34 years and was very much in the middle of all the upheaval heading into the 1989 NCAA tournament. And Bruce, thank you so much for joining us. Well, Bruce, I thought before we talked about the feelings of getting to the Final Four and everything, can you talk about what was going on with this Michigan team that seemed to be not quite all together? And then there was the coaching change, and then something changed. Could you talk about that?
Well, all I can tell you, I mean, you can go on forever about this, but I just remember us playing Illinois in the last game of the season at home and getting trounced, and walking next to Bill Frieder as we walked through the tunnel, and people just booing and yelling at us. I'll never forget that. So, of course, then we get put into the NCAA tournament, I think as a 3 seed, if I'm not mistaken. And anyways, we're taking a look, and I figure, okay, we've got to get everything ready and just get going. And then all of a sudden, on Monday, I start getting phone calls that saying Bill Frieder's taking the job at Arizona State. And that led to just what I would call a wild evening. Walked into the office the next day, and I see Bo Schembechler, who was the AD at the time. And Bo was looking, he sees me walking in. He kind of says, "Come on up, Bruce," with his fingers, "come on up." So I did. I come up, and of course we went on to our discussion, and he said, did you know about any of this? I go, no, this one hit me, it was a shocker to me. So then we decided to have a press conference. Now understand, Bo still at this time, not only the AD, he was the head coach, so he's head coach and AD. So we're going to have a press conference. I said, Bo, we have to have a press conference because you're going to name somebody. And, he asked Fish to come on in, and he asked Fish if he was ready to do it. Fish said yes. We had the press conference, and that's where I think the word Michigan man really became what I would call legendary, because he used it like we're going to have a Michigan man to coach a Michigan team. And we had the press conference. Bo was in his football gear. He was literally going to practice. He had the whistle around him, and everything. So he's ready to go. And so we take off, and I'm talking to Bo through this whole thing. And I'm saying, Bo, you're going to have to come down to Atlanta with us. You're going to have to make sure that we're in a situation. You're going to have to take the stuff off, the players' backs, because everybody's going to be talking and wanting to know what's going on. So when we did arrive, now I'm starting to figure out if it was Tuesday or Wednesday. It doesn't matter. But when we did arrive in Atlanta, Bill Frieder was there, and he talked to the team. But before the team left, one of the most amazing stories I remember being part of was that Bo went into the locker room and basically said to each one, Pauline, this is what you have to do. This is what you have to do. Griff, this is what you have to do. And he's just pointing at it. And he gets to Sean Higgins, because there was discussion already that Sean Higgins was thinking of a transfer. He looked at Sean Higgins and he says, Sean, if you want to transfer, it's on my desk right now. That's what I'm telling you. And so I'm sitting there. He's trying to give everybody, he's really building everybody up. And he gets to Sean Higgins, and he's talking about the transfer. So everybody's kind of looking, oh, what's going on? So anyways, we take off. I tell Bo he's got to come down. He has to train. At that point, he has to change practice schedules and all that type of stuff. He comes down when we had our first day of practice at the Omni. And we literally had to get people off. We had to move to the NCAA tournament place where they have the interviews and everything, because that interview room, because there was so much media trying to talk to Bo that they were on the court while we were doing practice. So the reason I wanted Bo down there is because I figured we had to make sure that these players could concentrate on basketball. During this time, of course, Glenn Rice in his famous words, something like, us against the world, and took that type of verbiage down there, and he kept on using that. And then we just get into the tournament, and the tournament itself was a wild run. It was crazy, And the only thing I'll ever remember is going up from the Omni to the hotel, and Steve Fisher asking me if he had a chance of getting the full-time job. And I said, it's really easy, Fish. All you have to do is win 6 games. And he kind of laughed, and it was we kind of took it to a point where, okay, we just got to play basketball. And I think that's what the team did, and I think that kind of solidified the team, but not until after the first round.
And when you see that it's a Big Ten foe and a team you finished the regular season with in Illinois, what are the feelings then heading into that one?
Well, what's the old line? It's hard to beat somebody 3 times. I think that when you take a look at any team that's in that situation, I don't mean the situation that the 89 team was, but just getting to a point of the Final Four or thing, I don't think anybody worries about what happened before. I think it's a new world, it's a new life, it's a new game, and all that matters is that game. And when you take a look at it, Sean Higgins, and that's the one, he had the great play at the end there against Illinois. But, when we took a look, we played Illinois. A lot of people thought that was going to be the battle for that it's like this coming, this coming Final Four. Arizona and Michigan, everybody expects Arizona and Michigan, who to win that game is going to go and be the champion. It was similar to that with Illinois playing us, at the Kingdom. Two of the great teams in the Big Ten getting together And it was a marvelous game. That's all I can tell you. It was a marvelous game. We won 83-81. And this team stood together all the way through. And I'm going to tell you how relaxed. We'll talk about the final game there before, but I'll tell you how relaxed. This team was really relaxed through this whole thing. That's what was amazing to me, is they got relaxed. I think at first they kind of bound together, and then it was a relaxed bunch all the way through after the first round.
Bruce, do you believe if Frieder had stayed the coach, or Bo would have let him finish the year, do you think that team would have rallied to win it?
You know, as a hypothetical question, Will, I can't really answer that. I don't know. I mean, I think sometimes we might be put too much emphasis on the coach when you have a team that's together like that. I mean, I've got stories from Jalen Rose and other people who have always said to me, in cases where the game is there, they've always said, hey, don't worry about it, coach. This is what we're going to do. It's hard to say. I can't answer that because I have no idea. Well, no idea. I can tell you this, though. They all felt they were playing for both, not Fisher, just for Steve and the University of Michigan, but they did feel like they were playing for Freeds too.
Well, fondest memory of the whole event.
There were a lot of fond memories. It was a crazy time, I can tell you that. The fondest memories of that run had to be the next day after beating Seton Hall, and we're sitting. Fish and I are going to be talking to Digger Phelps in the morning. So they got the crew over there for whatever network it was that Digger was on at the time. And I'll never forget, because it was a bar area. It was all closed up. Of course, it was a bar. We were just there ourselves. And Digger is talking to Steve Fisher and saying to him, Steve, just retire right now. It's not going to get any better than this. I'll never forget when he said that. He says, you did what every coach has wanted to do. He says, just leave on a high note. And I thought it was Fish and I just laughed our tails off during that time. And it was really one of those moments what you'll never forget. Everything else before then, I mean, yeah, winning the national championship and having them let me get up on the, on the ladder and, cut off part of the, the netting, that was great. But I hardly remember that. See, because during all that time, I'm thinking about how we're going to put our players in the best situation that they can be in terms of the media, it's not going to bother them, it's going to help us, and that they're going to say what's on their mind, not something that's on my mind. And they did a great job of the whole thing. They did rock the world. I mean, they were fantastic. The one point I do want to bring out to you guys, though, is to tell you how relaxed they were. You know what Glenn Rice was doing before the Seton Hall game in the room? He was literally taking a nap on the training table. Tells you how relaxed that team was. Glenn Rice was taking a nap before the game. So, when you see it and all that, it was one of those things. And then after that, my thoughts really came to thinking, okay, what are we going to do now what's Bo going to do with our head coaching position? Is he going to, stay with Steve Fisher and go from there? Or, who else is he going to pick out? And I thought I knew who he might do it too. But he kind of got put in a position where, you win the national championship. What are you going to do? Steve Fisher was the guy you're going to go with. And I think, having Steve and what he was going to do is just amazing. When Fish and I were talking about, the potential of Steve continuing as a head coach, and then I kidded him, of course, about the 6 games. That's all he's got to win. The guy that I know Bo really liked, and he talked about him a lot when we got together about basketball, before Frieder left, and then especially after, was Xavier coach Pete Gillen. And to this day, I maintain if we didn't win the national championship in '89, Pete Gillen would have become our head coach in Michigan.
Bruce Madej, longtime Michigan Sports Information Director. And by the way, since everybody's talking about the NCAA tournament Glenn Rice had, here are some numbers to go along with those sentiments. In his 6 tournament games, he was good for 23 points in the first one. Then in the games that followed, he scored 34, 36, 32, 28, and 31 in the national title game, which is not too bad. Back with more of the Sports Life and the Big Ten look at this thing in just a moment.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Dad. Did you get a new haircut or something? A new shirt? You're looking good.
What happened?
A little fender bender?
How little?
A few days in the shop little, but thanks to Mom and our agent, we've already submitted a claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto Owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Sounds like simple human sense.
I'm fine, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna ask.
Ask your independent agent if Auto Owners makes sense for you.
So I graduated last year and got a job. Sweet! But it got boring. I didn't really have a purpose. Then I started volunteering with Community Action. It's a statewide network with 29 agencies across Michigan. Community Action helps people with food, housing, utilities, childcare, senior services, you name it. I found my purpose, helping people, changing lives. Won't you join me? Call 1-855-MI-ACTION or go to MichiganCommunityAction.org. Sponsored by Michigan Community Action and Michigan Association of Broadcasters.
This is a potter's field. When people can't pay for their funerals, they are buried here. It is a lonely, desolate place, littered with unmarked headstones. No one visits. No one leaves flowers. But it doesn't have to be that way. For as low as $1 a day, you can ensure your family will have the money to pay your funeral expenses. We offer burial insurance plans that pay up to $30,000. Considering the average funeral costs more than $10,000, that's peace of mind for your family. There are no medical exams, your rates won't increase, and your policy cannot be canceled as long as you make your premium payments. Call now to get approved in minutes and ensure your final resting place is more than just a pauper's grave in a potter's field.
800-562-2407. 800-562-2407. 800-562-2407. That's 800-562-2407. Paid for by Final Expense Direct.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye, Dad.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again?
Alex is just...
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. We'll team in here along with Dalton Shetler. Well, this show is all about the last time Michigan and Illinois were in the same Final Four. And that Final Four was 1989. We've kind of taken a look at all the craziness surrounding this game from an Illinois perspective and from a Michigan perspective. But what about the Big Ten? Now, if you're looking for somebody who was at the heart of the Big Ten's movement, especially when it came to advancing its presence in electronic media, well, you don't have to look very much further than former Senior Associate Commissioner Mark Rudner, who was with the Big Ten for 40 years, starting way back in 1979. And Mark, thank you so much for joining us. So, Mark, as as it became apparent that we were going to have Michigan and Illinois in the same Final Four. I mean, that wasn't the first time that happened for the Big Ten. Now, you didn't have to go way back to 1980 when Purdue and Iowa were there. But this one seems so different. The exciting Flying Illini and all the media hubbub around Frieder and Fisher. From your standpoint, was this just different when you got to Seattle?
Well, yeah, it really was. You had two great teams, actually four great teams, and the two Big Ten teams that had played each other during the regular season and in really some memorable regular season games. But, if you think back of the history of the Final Four, and if you think about the Big Ten, the Big Ten has made more Final Four appearances than any other conference going back to 1939. And on top of that, if you think that, this is hard to believe, but it's been 50 years since Michigan and Indiana first played against each other in a Final Four. Well, they didn't play each other, but they were both in the Final Four in 1976. And if you extend that even further, the other two teams in the Final Four in 1976 were Rutgers and UCLA. So I guess in 2026, you could say in 1976, 50 years ago, it was an all Big Ten Final Four. And that was really historic, if you remember. It was the nation's bicentennial, and Indiana, such a great team, beat Michigan, and it sort of set the stage for what was to come in the years to pass. Now, in 1980, you mentioned Purdue and Iowa. We didn't win. 1981, Indiana won, and then 1987, Indiana won. But really, if you think about the 1980s, it was really the introduction of the Big East Conference and the revitalization of Eastern basketball. And the year that three Big East teams played in the Final Four, I think it was 1985, was really an important moment, I think, in the game. Unfortunately, since 1989, when Michigan won the national championship, the Big Ten has only won one national championship, even though we've made multiple appearances in the Final Four. That was an environment at the Kingdome in Seattle that was just electric. It was hot. Michigan was hot. Illinois was even hotter, and it was just such a fun time. It was a transformational time, I think, for the Big Ten, as you and I discussed the other day. But I have very fond memories of that Final Four and of the Michigan-Illinois game. It was heartbreaking for Illinois fans, but for the Big Ten fans, it was really cool to see.
Well, Mark, there you talk a lot about the climate at the time for college basketball and how transformational it was for the Big Ten. And here you have Illinois and Michigan going to the Final Four in 1989. All the while, the conference is welcoming in a new commissioner. What was that transition time like?
Well, it was interesting to say the least. Wayne Duke, who was the commissioner of the Big Ten going back to the early 70s, had announced his retirement. And shortly before the tournament, Jim Delaney had been named the new commissioner, and he would assume his role a couple weeks after the start of the finish of the Final Four. So it really was transformational. Jim had been on the NCAA basketball committee. He brought a wealth of knowledge of the committee and of tournament basketball to the Big Ten, which the Big Ten didn't have. I mean, Wayne Duke was as important to the game of basketball in the NCAA tournament as any one person could have been, going back to his days working in the NCAA office. But really, Jim was the person that brought that spirit of tournament basketball to the Big Ten. Eventually, 8 years later, the conference would have its own basketball tournament in 1998 that really set the stage for where we are today, I think. It really was, as you said, a transformational time, I think, in the world of Big Ten and college basketball.
Final question, Mark, as you look back to 1989 in this Final Four, your fondest memory?
I think, Will, it has to be how that game ended. the free throws by Romeo Robinson to win the thing for Michigan, and I think the heartbreak for Illinois fans, which can't be underestimated. It really would have been nice to see, either Illinois or Michigan in the championship game, which fortunately we had a team in the championship game. But the fondest memory was just the spirit of, the Big Ten in a faraway land, rooting on each other for the national championship. And I should say, all of us are subjected to from time to time when we go to an SEC football game or basketball game, the chant of SEC, SEC ringing through the stadium. But in Seattle on that night when Michigan came out on top, there were cries of Big Ten throughout the arena from Illinois fans and from Michigan fans. There really was sort of a spirit of camaraderie and unity among all the Big Ten fans. Let's win one for the Big Ten. And I would say the same thing this year. Let's finally win one. I mean, it's been one national championship since Seattle. I mean, we've really got to put our best foot forward. And I think Illinois and Michigan are the two best teams left in the Final Four. So we shall see what happens.
As always, Mark, appreciate it.
Will, it's always great to talk with you, and I wish you well and look forward to seeing you maybe sometime.
So there you go. A look at the Illinois, the Michigan, and the Big Ten perspective of both teams being in the Final Four in 1989. And sometimes the story behind the story is even a little bit more fun than the game itself. Back with more in our parting shots in just a moment.
So, got one for you, boss.
Oh, yeah?
What's black, white, and dented all over?
I give up.
The company truck. I know, but thanks to our agent, we've already submitted an insurance claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Lucky for you, that's simple human sense.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
So I graduated last year and got a job. Sweet! But it got boring. I didn't really have a purpose. Then I started volunteering with Community Action. It's a statewide network with 29 agencies across Michigan. Community Action helps people with food, housing, utilities, childcare, senior services, you name it. I found my purpose, helping people, changing lives. Won't you join me? Call 1-855-MI-ACTION or go to MichiganCommunityAction.org. Sponsored by Michigan Community Action and Michigan Association of Broadcasters.
If you have diabetes, listen up. If you have insurance, you can qualify for a continuous glucose monitor. With a CGM, you can continuously track your levels and trends and spend more time in range, significantly lowering your A1C. More importantly, a CGM eliminates the one thing most people with diabetes hate: painful finger sticks. Order your new continuous glucose monitor today. If you use insulin and if you've seen your diabetes care provider within the last 6 months, you may qualify for your own CGM right now. We'll do all the insurance paperwork and deliver your new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost to you. Medicare and most insurances will cover your CGM, so don't wait. Have your insurance handy and call the Aptiva Medical CGM Health Hotline right now.
800-948-6912. 800-948-6912. 800-948-6912. That's 800-948-6912.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Anybody ready for a burger?
I'm State Fire Marshal Rich Miller, reminding everyone to think safety first when it comes to outdoor grilling, whether it's charcoal or gas. Never overload your grill with food. Excess fat and grease will create large flames. Grill outdoors and never inside or in a garage. Never leave a grill unattended and always keep a fire extinguisher nearby. For more tips on safe grilling, visit the Bureau of Fire Services website at michigan.gov/BFS.
Medicaid and CHIP offer free or low-cost health coverage for children and teens. Hospital and doctor visits, prescriptions, shots, and more are covered. That's peace of mind for parents if a child is sick or gets injured. And parents may now be eligible for Medicaid too, even if they've applied in the past. Enrollment is always open. Visit insurekidsnow.gov or call 1-877-KIDS-NOW. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Teeman here along with Dalton Shetler. And we've had a fun show today as we revisited one of the crazier moments in Final Four history as Michigan and Illinois made the Final Four in 1989. Thanks to Mark Rudner from the Big Ten, Mark Coomes, Kendall Gill from Illinois, and of course Bruce Madej from Michigan, reliving what was a really chaotic, exciting, fun, intriguing, all those things, and it wound up being some pretty good basketball as well. So, having said that, parting shots, what do you got, Dalton?
Oh, by the way, if you missed any of that, make sure you give us a follow at Sports Life Now on Twitter or X. That's again at Sports Life Now. You can catch all the interviews that we had throughout the show highlighting the 1989 matchup between Illinois and Michigan, both going to the Final Four. But for my parting shot, you know, we're starting to see already all the different headlines, all the articles, all the posts of everybody jumping into the transfer portal, right? 'Tis the season as we wind down the actual basketball season.
Are you in?
I not as of now. So I think we're clean.
Okay.
But you know, it's actually been really interesting that you see so much of this, and we can't actually even get our head straight onto who exactly is in the portal yet. It's so much chaos that we can't really get it organized or sorted yet. But we had made jokes, Will, over the last couple of years that, man, when you get to this point of the portal season, you'd almost be better off having people announce that they're coming back to school. Well, that joke has become reality. Different programs, even from the Big Ten Conference, are making announcements that they are retaining their players on social media, online. So what started off as kind of a halfway serious joke has now become our reality. A lot of programs are starting to make the announcements that players are returning to their schools and their programs, which goes to show really where we're at with this whole portal season.
If I would have said that was happening 3 years ago, you just said, Will, you should maybe take a couple days off, and we'll get back to you. Well, since we've spent so much time revisiting the Final Four of 1989, we might as well get to the end of it. Obviously, Michigan won it. They won it in overtime against Seton Hall. So my parting shot, Dalton, is going to be Larry Henry, the voice of the Wolverines at the time. His final call as Michigan wins its first ever NCAA men's basketball championship, and, of course, the thoughts of then interim head coach Steve Fisher.
Robinson, one more free throw, can put the Wolverines back on top, and he does! Nothing but that for Ramil Robinson with 21. Seton Hall takes their final timeout. 80-79. Michigan up by 1. 3 seconds remaining. Here we go, final three. Ramos, baseball pass the other way. It comes to Walker and Green. Walker turns, forces, misses. Michigan has won the national title! Michigan has won the NCAA basketball title for 1989. They are winners, 80-79. The celebration begins. The Cinderella story of Steve Fisher has run to fruition. He took over before the first NCAA game from Bill Frieder. He's got a perfect 6-0 and has won the national championship title.
Well, I'm pleased and proud and excited and all those emotions. It's not fully registered, I don't think, for any of us. I think it will as time goes on. We'll reflect back on it all night and a plane ride home and into the wee hours of the morning the next couple of days.
So there you go. That's a wrap for this week's show. And as always, we appreciate everybody that joined us. And we should also note that you can find us wherever you find your podcasts, like SoundCloud, Spotify, and Apple. And make sure to check us out and hit subscribe. As always, thanks to the Big Ten Network. The Sports Life is produced by Dalton Shetler. Our executive producer is Wendy Hart. So on behalf of Dalton, I'm Will Teeman, and thanks for your time.